There are 27 holiday palettes that are out right now, and I tried all of them. That's right, all of them. I really wanted to make sure that I tested every single one so that I could give you guys the best recommendations. When it comes to purchasing holiday eyeshadow palettes, there are so many, and if you don't know what's going on, you probably won't even know where to start. So let's talk about the worst palette that I've tried, and we'll go all the way to the best because the best ones are some of the most beautiful palettes I have ever seen. Starting with palette 27, or Last Place. Oh my gosh, this one is so expensive, luxury brand, and yet absolutely terrible. This is the Tom Ford palette this year, their holiday palette. This is called Naked Pink. It is the Soleil Neige eye color quad for this year. In theory, you could visualize a look really easily with this. You could grab that shimmer shade as kind of like a shimmer topper or a really beautiful focal point on your look, and yet this one fell short in so many ways. This is one that is so beyond terrible. It's basically sheer. It's something that like barely shows up on the eye. These two at the top row too have next to no distinction. You kind of have to look really closely. If you did one lid with one color and the other lid with the other color, the difference between them would be extremely slight. So not only do I feel like he could have really done a totally different color in that top row so that there wasn't so much closeness with that, it looks so much better in the pan because everything when you translate it on the lid, whether it's applying or whether it's swatching, really let me down. And Tom Ford is kind of going down a really interesting trajectory lately. I feel like a lot of his palettes have been falling short for me. The next palette is one that I was so eager to review. I actually reviewed it on my channel when I was in Greece. This is the Fenty Beauty Bomb Posse palette, and this is actually one that I actually left in my hotel room. Funny story. We'll get to that. But basically, this is a palette that I picked up for the first time when I was overseas in Greece. I was actually on vacation, and I saw that this was actually in their Sephora stores before the North American stores were going to get it. So I figured I would pick it up while on vacation and just do a quick little like test of this product. And honestly, it was so terrible. And the return policy out there, a little different than ours. I couldn't return it. It was something that if you buy makeup out there in Europe, there is no going back. So I was stuck with this thing and I didn't even want to take it home. So that's why I left it behind. It's one that had a mix between mattes and shimmers, but the shimmers were really hard to work with. The mattes were really dry. They're really stiff. This is a formula that I just wish was a lot better. I really do like Fenty Beauty and a lot of products I love, but this is certainly not it. Looks like it could have a lot more versatility to it, but when I was actually applying it to the eye, there was color over color on top of each other. It was like I was basically just applying brown over more brown. There was no degree of difference with a lot of these shades when you actually apply them to the lid. So this is a palette that I'm like, heck no, I'm not even bringing this home with me. It's such a disappointment. The Gucci palette, the one that fell short for me in a major way. It was a terrible buy, extremely expensive. My wallet was crying. This is the Gucci eyeshadow palette, and can you just see the packaging of this? Like, why was this not better? I just love the packaging, the vintage vibes, the flowers. Like, this looks so cool. Even just the edging of this is beautiful. I mean, we've got a really beautiful pale pink kind of beige packaging here. It's very heavy in the hand. It feels like luxury. And then you open it up to this. What the heck is this? Like, not only is my brain kind of confused with where to go with a palette like this color story looks haphazard and mixed up. I don't know. We're talking about Fenty Beauty just before, how there was like brown on brown on brown, and I was like really begging for more versatility, and this gave me more versatility, but like it's so much versatility that I can't even see where to start. This is a palette also. I mean, look at all that wasted real estate. This is literally the smallest pan for such a big palette, and then randomly it comes out. You guys can see it comes out to like nothing, and I don't know why. Like, I think I'm missing something. If you know, please share, because is this supposed to be like a tray for jewelry? And then you take this out for what? So that it kind of collects air and gets dry? Like, I don't understand this. Like, I thought maybe there was a brush underneath. Oh no, there is nothing underneath. It gives me a lot of anxiety thinking that this is gonna like fly out every time I use it. But not only that, when I was testing it, I didn't even really have any joy out of it because it was just like, where am I supposed to go with this color story? That was the first biggest thing. The second biggest thing was the formula. Even at the end of the day, when I could conjure something up, I still couldn't get this to look remotely beautiful on the eye. There's just, the shimmers are slightly better than the mattes, but they are stiffer all across the board. This is a very beautiful palette on the exterior, but on the interior, it lacks a lot. Pigmentation, user-friendliness. I don't know, guys. Gucci let me down with that one. That was a big disappointment too. NARS, a brand I actually really do like. This is another one that they've released a really stellar palette, which is coming later on in this countdown. But these three, not good. First of all, with the packaging style, I'm going to start with the one that performed the worst out of the three, which is Laguna. Laguna is this color story. Now, when I show you, look how tiny this is. I'm actually not, like, size does not matter to me. Size does not matter to me when it comes to eyeshadow. The small size of this palette doesn't bother me, but what does bother me is the cover of this, like the lid. This is so sharp. If you guys have one of these palettes, you'll be able to know, but this is like a blade. Like when you're opening this up and you happen to like crisp your finger against that edge, it's a paper cut situation waiting to happen. And if you've ever had a cardboard paper cut, this is a cardboard paper cut waiting to happen. Yikes, this is certainly not good. Now, the reason why these palettes underperformed for me were the mattes in particular. The shimmers in here are really stunning, and this actually makes a really beautiful mini 6-pan palette for on the go. The pans are small, but you can get a brush in there. It's an eye brush, right? It doesn't have to be like a big surface area. However, the mattes really underperformed, especially this one in the corner. It's just very, very dry. And NARS does have a creamy matte formula, so the fact that this didn't seem to translate in the mini palettes, I don't know. This is the worst performing out of the three. We're going to get to the other two mini palettes, but this packaging, why? I mean, I get it, but they should have made this edge a little bit smoother. Maybe some kind of plastic edging or something to protect your hand. I have not gotten a cut yet, but I'm worried I'm going to. Now here are the other two little mini babies. So the outer packaging graphic is super cool with all the tape. I know that there's people that hate it and there's people that love it, but I actually really do like it. I think it's kind of different. But I would say the medium or the second worst palette is Orgasm. This is Orgasm. This is one that fell short for me. I do think this is a color story that NARS puts out fairly frequently with that really beautiful pinky gold kind of vibe. They know how to do these color stories well, and the shimmers here are fantastic. This is actually a really lovely kind of gold pinky shimmer that almost reminds me of the Orgasm blush. So this particular shade is really beautiful because it reminds me of that. It's the same thing. I don't know what matte formula they put in these minis, but it's certainly not the same matte formulation that NARS is capable of. That's really creamy and really easy to blend and just seems to glide on your brush on your lid there. This is just not it. So color story, good. Again, Laguna was good too, but those poor performing mattes, this one in particular is kind of like a cherry pink. This is one that was really hard to work with in this pan. So unfortunately, another not so great palette from NARS, but we're getting to the really good one that they came out with this year. The last one is Dolce Vita, so this is the silver mini, and if you're interested in any of the mini palettes, this is the one, because this is the best performing mini. I wouldn't say that it's better than the big pan palette that we will talk about, but this one is the best performing mini. This is a really beautiful color story too. You can see how absolutely beautiful that is. The top row is all shimmers that are perfect. They're very pigmented, they're really creamy, but again, a little bit of those interesting mattes, but the mattes seem to be a little bit better in this palette. I'm not sure why, but I just didn't have as much of a difficult time blending them, building them compared to the other two. Of course, Laguna was the worst. Orgasm was second, kind of medium ground. This one is the best out of the three, but certainly doesn't sit well in this countdown, right? Because we're still kind of on the bottom of the 27 palette list. But I love the color story here. I do think it's gorgeous, like very romantic bridal vibes. I really, really love this. This is the best performing mini, but not as good as the big pan palette. I might get some hate for this next one. I know that Wayne Goss has a really, really big fan base that's very loyal, and I actually really admire Wayne Goss for being an amazing makeup artist. I think he's very talented, but I'm just going to be reviewing his palettes and his products from my perspective, not knowing him, based on my experience. That's really it. So this is the latest one. This is Tourmaline, I think is how you pronounce it. Tourmaline. I like the glam vibes, I do, but it's sort of the same kind of mediocre palette that I'm used to from him. The best one is the bridal one, and I forget what that one is called. I'm going to insert the name here because it's not coming to me, but it's sort of like the pink theme. That one for some reason performed the best, but I still found that it wasn't like my absolute favorite palette when it comes to formulation or consistency of formula. It's just okay. This gold is very reminiscent of like the pop shades from Charlotte Tilbury. They kind of give me the same vibes. They're a little bit more pigmented than Charlotte's pop shades, and they're actually a little bit grittier than Charlotte's pop shades. This one has like more texture to it. I will say that the mattes and the satins in this palette are just good. That's why it sort of placed where it did in this countdown, right? Because if you want to support Wayne Goss and his brand, then absolutely. I don't think you'll be necessarily unhappy with this palette, but I wouldn't necessarily say this is like the best formula I have ever used on my eyes. So I will say there's a little bit of building up with these pigments. They do translate quite sheer to light at the beginning. Then you do have to kind of layer and layer and layer. This shade here will fall on the face a little bit because of the texture behind it. But other than that, I just think this is an okay palette. Didn't wow me necessarily. I didn't want to cry after using it either. So it's just okay, right? Which is why it's sort of placing towards the mid-bottom of this countdown. Let's get to the next one, which is from Dior. Dior came out with two Atelier of Dreams quads. The first one here is the silver one. So this one is the Atelier of Dreams in silver. It is called House of Dreams, number 739. The 5 couleur formulation is very different. It's more on the smooth side, a little bit more of a lighter pigment presentation on the lid. So it's smooth, but it sort of feels like it's more light, like a softer look overall. This is a really, really beautiful color story. The only thing I wish was that there was a little bit more distinction between this top row because they tend to blend into each other. So unless you're using just one or just two, I feel like they blend in and it almost looks hard to distinguish what shade was which. Now we're getting to like really well-performing products, but just little things that I don't like so that they place in a certain way in the countdown, right? And this one is just color story. Not necessarily my favorite color story. It is beautiful. I love how it's got that really gorgeous silver shimmer in the middle, but overall this one's a little bit more muted, a little bit more soft. Just like this 5 couleur formulation. It really is easy to work with. I think this is a beautiful formula because it just tends to smooth over, right? So my lids, I have clearly a hooded lid. It is creased fairly heavily at the middle section, and that seems to challenge any pigments when I do test anything on my eyes. If it separates right there, I know this is not withstanding deep creasing. Well, this is one that does a great job of that. So this is a well-performing palette. So this is the next palette in the countdown. This next one is from Natasha Denona. This is the Baby Glam palette. Now this is one that is a re-release from the Midi Glam palette that Natasha Denona is basically saying is one of her best-selling palettes. So she kind of created this little mini for a travel size version of Glam. So just one look kind of on the go. And I actually think this is a really good concept, but it's placed where it is in the countdown because the versatility is just poor, right? I mean, you just have one look. That's okay. This is basically this palette's purpose. The quality is definitely there, but the other palettes in this countdown just offer more. Now this is a beautiful, well-performing shimmer shade with that gorgeous purpleness to it, and then we have those beautiful everyday friendly mattes. Because there's only the 3 shades, it doesn't give you too much to work with. So this really is just meant for a one and done look on the go for travel. But if you are wanting something really cute and itty bitty like this, you won't regret it because it is well performing. Next in line, we have Natasha Denona's Mini Metropolis. This was also released not that long ago during the holiday season of launches. This is a mix between 2 new shades as well as 3 from the existing Metropolis palette. And I really like that she kept 2 of the show-stopping shades from Metropolis in here. So we have this one and this one, which are both shimmer. Now it's funny, I have had so many debates in my comment section about what color this is. So many people are like, Jenna, it's green. It's green. I'm like, it looks blue. So I guess that's a matter of opinion, right? But I think it's blue. It's like a blue-green, depends on how you view it. But I really, really love this shade because it just adds that gorgeous depth and that punch of blue or green in your eye look. So I really, really love that. And I also think you can kind of glam it up and look a little bit more smoky and sultry for the holidays. These 2 shades here anchor this palette beautifully. These are the 2 new additions to this mini. Quality across the board is gorgeous, but these 2, I like that she added such easy wearable shades for every day because you can just easily create looks like this knowing you have those founding colors. You can go all over the lid with this matte on the end. You can smoke out with this brown if you want to keep the gold, or you can do some blue with the gold. This mini actually does offer quite a bit for you. So Natasha makes some really beautiful minis. Not all of them are the best quality, but this is definitely one that she's maintained the quality and kept that price point on the lower side. So I think this one is fantastic. This is actually a new-ish palette to me, and I finally have finished testing it to include it in this countdown. This is the Danessa Myricks Light Work Volume Palette. Now, first of all, it's huge. I'm going to show you the inside of this, but I really do like kind of the outer, like, cool texture on the outside. So you can see here, it's all like raised, right? It's super beautiful. This is cardboard packaging, so it's not the most luxurious packaging I've ever seen as a luxury makeup reviewer, but it's practical, right? This is the interior, and I have to show you how these shades shift. There are so many multi-chrome shades in here, it's unbelievable. I love the variety of textures in here, but I've ranked it where it is because typically for my preferences, I'm not always wearing multi-chrome colors and like looks all the time. So although this serves a very specific purpose for the multi-chrome lever and the quality is definitely there, I will say that these pigments overall to me seem to last a little bit less on the lid. Like overall, they seem to fade quicker, and I'm not sure why. But either way, that's really the only downside with this. I like how she's got those 4 highlights in the center. They are meant for your cheeks, but you can put them on your eyes. But every single one of them is a duochrome, so it's kind of cool. We have like a purple leaning one, a blue-green leaning one. Very, very interesting. This is really for those that want to experiment with texture, with color, with like shifting color. This is a pressed glitter up here, so just make sure you're using a glitter glue with that because it basically is the glitter pressed in. There's no pigment underneath it, nothing to hold that glitter, so you do have to glue it with a glitter glue. And then we also have some creams in here. So there's powder and there's cream. There's a cream up here and a cream down here. Both are multi-chrome as well. So it's very, very interesting how she's created this palette. It's really, really cool. And for those of you that love the shifting of color and all of that, this is a really great buy because the product quality is definitely there. I just wish the longevity was a little bit better. We are now basically splitting hairs when it comes to this countdown. There are so many really, really beautiful, well-performing products that are coming up that I'm going to share with you. So this next one in the countdown, I think you guys know, is Too Faced Holiday Edition palette. This is the Cinnamon Swirl palette. Now this came out sort of in the fall, like fall early holiday release type timeline, but I purposely put this in because the tin packaging rendition of Too Faced formula always the best chance at getting their best formula. If you're unfamiliar with Too Faced, they usually put out a Christmas collection. Oh my gosh, the quality is always really poor. I don't know what they do. They manufacture it elsewhere. They put it in a cardboard package that looks kind of cute. I think this one this year is called Christmas in the City and it looks like a little house. So adorable, right? But the quality, oh, the quality, never there. If you're wanting a Too Faced palette, this is it. This one smells like cinnamon to me, and it is Cinnamon Swirl, rightfully so. So if you are scent-aversive, this is a big, big thing to keep in mind. It doesn't waft off the eye all day, but when you're applying it, it certainly wafts up in your face a little bit. So this is a cinnamon forward smelling palette. And I like it because we've got that beautiful array of gorgeous, like everyday friendly shades, plus the touches of glam. I love this kind of trio of pinks down here. You can see I had a bit of an unfortunate accident with a fingernail jamming right in there when I tried to open it, so just be careful. Too Faced does a great job creating beautiful shimmers and really beautiful mattes. Really, really stunning. Expect some kick up when you're picking up some of those shimmers. Make sure that you're using your fingertip for the optimal pigmentation when it comes to those shimmers, or spray a brush. It's really important to get that top pigmentation with those shimmers that have a bit of texture behind them. This next one is the first Charlotte Tilbury palette that is in our countdown. You guys know I love Charlotte Tilbury, definitely one of my favorite brands, probably the most favorite brand that I get the most success with. But this is my least favorite palette that she has done this year. It's still really good quality, but the color story is just sort of to me. You know, it's just all right. This is the Cosmic Pearl palette. It is one of her quads. Now this is, I believe, not at Sephora. I haven't seen it yet there. I think it's just Charlotte Tilbury's site right now, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a really interesting, beautiful duochrome right on this bottom corner. It is quite red of a look. So that's just basically all it is. It's just more of a darker look overall. Quality is definitely there, but I just prefer her other palettes this year compared to this color in particular. So nothing to jab at with the quality. I think the quality is fantastic. I think the quads are designed to really give you a multi-dimensional look with certain shades that complement really well. So this is a great one. I think if I was picky, I wish there was some more versatility with some of this because it does tend to look a little bit monochromatic and a little bit like one color over the other. I just wish there was a little bit more versatility. But other than that, the quality is fantastic. I really, really love Charlotte's quads, and this one is no exception. Next palette we're going to be talking about is the other Atelier of Dreams Dior quad. Now this is the one called Atelier DORE. Every time I say some French, I swear every single one of my French-speaking viewers is probably just killing themselves laughing. Like, who is this girl trying to pronounce our language? Oh, and I'm Canadian, so it's kind of disgraceful that I don't know French. Atelier DORE, I think is how you're supposed to say this one, but this is the gold rendition of this palette. This one has a bit more versatility than the silver one, and I really like this look overall compared to the silver one. Both of them are excellent quality. Both have that same shimmer, soft kiss of color. You can definitely layer a couple layers, but it does tend to sit around medium opacity on the lid. This is not a formula, by the way, that is like Natasha or Pat, where it's like pigment forward. This is more of a softer, bringing out your own beauty type look, right? It's not quite like Chanel, but Chanel has a similar idea, as does Saint Laurent, where they have, you know, softer, more muted tones that bring out your own beauty, right? So this one is really, really beautiful. I love the intricate design that is in both of these. They have very beautiful embossments for the Atelier of Dreams collection. I love the gold in this too. It's very pigmented. It's really stunning. So if you're wanting a Dior palette, I would say out of the two, this one is more so my favorite. Now, speaking of beautiful palettes, this is also one that came out during the beginning of the holiday releases, sort of like early fall. This is from By Terry, and this has beautiful embossments in the pans. It almost makes me not want to use it, which would defeat the whole purpose, but it's really, really beautiful. This is the By Terry Terribly Paris palette. It's so cute. I love the packaging. I think it's beautiful. On the back, it says it's in the color story called Bonjour Paris. It's the VIP Expert palette. This is going to be for my neutral gals, guys, 100%. This is not going to be for someone that wants a green or a blue, because clearly it's not in here. It's just a gorgeous, everyday, neutral-friendly palette, right? Like the people that just love brown, love bronze, love gold, you're gonna love this one. Does it not make you not want to use it? Like, it look like little pictures, all of them. And even just using it a few times, they're starting to diminish, so it's like breaking my heart. At the same time, this palette cannot just sit. It must be used. Haven't actually tried a By Terry product until this one, and I'm very impressed. It's actually really stunning. I love the tones in here, and I do think it makes for someone that loves those neutrals I know that there's girls out there like myself that love neutrals, that don't mind buying so many neutrals. This is a gorgeous one. This next one is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Primrose palette. And guys, if you are familiar with Anastasia's formulation, it is maintained in this palette. I really, really like the outer pale pink packaging. I think it's stunning. It also has a bit of a texture to it, or an embossment that is raised upward. It's really, really beautiful. The only thing that kind of places it a little bit lower in the countdown, like we're still talking about high quality palettes, but compared to some of my other ones, it's the blushes for me. The blushes are a little harder for me to work with personally because this one just tends to be too light and this one just tends to be too deep. So it really is kind of a game of mixing the two together, and because of that, they're not blushes that I reach for. But I do really love the color story of the other side. Now keep in mind, quality is there, but there's some redundancy if you have soft glam or if you have modern renaissance or both. This is a palette that has merged those two palettes together. If you have those two, there's no need to pick up this one because it's very, very similar when it comes to looks. But if you like those looks and you're like, I don't care if I have more of them, you're gonna love this one. I just wish that the blushes were more wearable colors for me. Keep in mind the Anastasia formulation requires a little bit of a cleanup process because it does tend to fall on the face. I urge you to either put powder down there to cover it, to like get it to blend away, or just do your eyes first, because although this is a beautiful, very long lasting pigmented formulation, easy to blend, she falls everywhere. And it's a price to pay, but I don't mind paying that price. I really do like her formula. This is also a very recent release. This is from Tarte Cosmetics, and this is the Full Bloom palette. And we are a big palette here. We are big, big, big palette. If you are familiar with the In Bloom Tartelette Amazonian Clay palette, this is the big sister, the big little sister, because she's younger than In Bloom, but she's bigger than In Bloom. So it's the bigger, younger sister. Right now we're in winter vibes over here, so it sort of brightens up my mood to see it. But I think this is also more so like a spring palette, if I'm being honest, right? Just like the looks. If you're a fan of the Amazonian Clay formulation, it is maintained in here. So just keep that in mind. It's the same soft vanilla scent that is off of this palette. I can actually smell it as I'm holding it. Now, when it comes to palettes they have done before, this is not a remarkably new color story from Tarte because they're good at neutrals. If you don't mind having duplicates, you're going to pick it up anyway because it's your favorite formula, right? Tartelette In Bloom is definitely different. It is on the darker side and it doesn't have this pink ensemble because this really is like an expansion of the In Bloom palette. Although to kind of mix things up and make it even more of a harder decision, this is a limited edition palette. So unlike the others that are permanent, this one isn't. I don't think I helped you at all, but this is a really beautiful palette nonetheless. If you're a fan of Tarte, you know that their mattes are more so on the powdery side, but they still have pigment and blendability. And their shimmers are fantastic too. They're a little bit more muted though. So I like to pick them up with my fingertip and then layer from there. But this is a beautiful one. Definitely impressive and a really nice palette for the Tarte lover or for someone that really likes basics and neutrals. Now we are getting into the Pat McGrath Labs holiday collection, and the first palette here in this countdown from Pat McGrath is her first quad that I'm going to be talking about. This is Deep Space Divinity from Pat McGrath. Now this one has grungy vibes to me. It just seems more deep. Grungy is the wrong word. I feel like that can be a turn-off word. It's not. It's just kind of edgy in a classy way because we do have those really nice white gold and kind of bronzy colors in here to sort of soften it and not make it quite as dark. But this is definitely one that is more on the darker side for her. I do like it. I think it's very well performing. There is a duochrome down here. I do have other favorites in her collection, which we'll talk about, but the quality is definitely there with this quad. One thing that I've noticed though is that the pan size is smaller in this one. Compared to other quads that she has done, she somehow like shrunk the amount of product that you can get, or maybe it is the same amount of product and it's just a smaller pan, but it's like thicker. So that's not really my favorite thing. And I feel like it's the same price as the other quads that she's done. So I'm like, Pat, don't do stuff like this. Come on. The shimmers are really, really nice. This isn't a special Blitz Astral formulation quad. This is just like shimmer and matte and a really interesting, beautiful duochrome, but it is a well-performing palette. Expect some fallout for sure. This is one that is in the countdown where it is because it's actually really beautiful. However, the quad out of the holiday collection from Pat McGrath that I love more is Bronze Borealis. This is the other one, and this one is just more of a Jena palette for me, just in general. So this is one that I would wear more so, just color preference wise. I would grab something like this over the other one, just simply my particular favorite colors that I like to wear. Only nitpicky downside is a little bit of lack of versatility here. I wish this matte was maybe a bit deeper, something, or maybe a little bit lighter. You know, like there's something about it that I just wish had been a little different because it's very close to this shimmer. This shimmer, like one of those had to change. Either one of them had to be a bit deeper or one of them had to be a bit lighter. Either way, that's the only thing. I also feel like there's lots of kick up with these shimmers with this particular quad, so I would definitely do my eyes first with either of the quads. Really nice glamorous like purple and golds for the holiday. This one is stunning. Let's talk about my favorite Charlotte Tilbury quad in this countdown. It's actually a little bit higher ranked than Cosmic Pearl because this one is just my favorite color story out of the two. This is Celestial Pearl by Charlotte Tilbury, and this is a very soft look overall. If you're a fan of her Star Aura palette, it's a really beautiful, like, emphasizing your own beauty forward, this is a very similar vibe. It's just got a lot of shimmer and that beautiful satin is really stunning, but I do have to layer it a couple of times. It does translate quite light at the beginning, but I really like this one. I think it's beautiful. It makes your eyes look super shimmery and gorgeous. Like, I don't know, she does a great job of making very creamy shimmers that just glide, and then your lids are poppin'. Like, they look so beautiful. A couple layers for me will add enough smokiness, but just a touch for that definition. I think this is like the perfect, like, dress up your eyes, but nothing too loud. Super, super beautiful for the holiday. Continuing our countdown with our next palette. Now this is the NARS palette that I was teasing earlier in this video where I talked about the minis and how disappointing they were, not just for packaging with like basically the injury risk, but also for the pigment and how dry the mattes were. This is the palette that I love. This is called Bijou, I think is how you say it. And this is the NARS eyeshadow palette that is basically full size for this year. Same tape packaging, but this packaging is not a safety risk. Thank you very much. You can see it's like smooth all the way across the edging. The only thing is that it's like sometimes harder to open, so I just kind of wedge my nail and pop open there. But this one is so pretty. Look at this. I love the shimmers in here. They have a little bit more of like a texture behind them, but they're gorgeous. I love the mattes. I love the olive green. I love the brown. I love how there's neutrals popped with like really beautiful berry and olive and shimmers to make any look pop. This is a very, very versatile palette, and this is the consistency and quality that NARS is known for. Very easy to use. NARS is one of the best-selling makeup brands at Sephora. It's like one of their brands they've had forever. It just seems to be such well-performing products for them, and this is that example. Like, this is what I'm talking about. The mattes are so creamy. They do hold their own. They have enough distinction between the shades that you can blend them and they're cohesive, they're complementary, but they're not blending into each other like one big color, right? Where it looks muddled and gross. This is one that I hope Sephora carries. I think Sephora just has some of the minis right now, and I'm like, why though? Get the good one. This one is beautiful from NARS for the holiday. The next one is the 12 pan from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Smoky Eyes Are Forever palette from Charlotte. She does come out with the 12 pan every year. They are limited edition, but not so much at the same time. You can still get the palette from 2 years ago on her website, so I guess it's as stock allows, really. Because it ain't limited if it's past the holiday 2 years ago and you can still get it. But this is one I'm not sure if it's going to happen for this one, but for sure it's happened before. This one is really stunning because it allowed Charlotte to do something a bit different. She typically does pinks, browns, and golds, which I take comfort in. They're really nice, beautiful tones and shades that I love to wear. I mean, I'm clearly wearing pink right now. But she also has a green trio, a red/orangey copper trio. She has a really cool deep trio with pink. Gorgeous. She's definitely expanded her repertoire with this one and expanded her creativity. This whole palette is called Smoky Eyes Are Forever, so there's a kind of a theme there to have some smokiness in the looks, you know. if that wasn't already obvious. So this is one where she's grouped them into trios so you can do looks really easily. There's one shade you put all over the lid, one that you amplify that shade with so you can like put it on top of the first shade, and then you can smoke out with the other one. It's really up to you though. Jump around, do whatever you want to do, but she's kind of put them together easier for you so you don't have to think about it if you don't want to. Who knows what Charlotte's gonna pull? Maybe the stock will run out and you won't be able to get it, but you can rest assured that it will be at least past this holiday for a little bit longer. The palette that shocked me this year, the palette that is this high in the countdown, and I had absolutely zero expectations for this one. Sorry, Gucci. This could be Gucci bad when it comes to eyeshadow formula, or this could be as amazing as Natasha Denona. What could this be? This is the YSL Holiday Clutch palette for this year, and the packaging, just like the Gucci one. And I'm only saying Gucci because they're both really high-end fashion brands. It's stunning. I mean, the Gucci, they killed it too with the packaging, but what also sets the Saint Laurent apart is the quality. The quality underneath, and look at the real estate, guys. The real estate was well used for this one. Oh my word. Very, very beautiful shades in here. Love the shimmers, love the satins. Gorgeous, gorgeous. This is also more on the softer side. So if you're a fan of Dior and how they translate on the lid, where it's softer, creamy, but like medium opacity overall. Very similar vibes to this palette. This one has gorgeous shimmers, but they're super creamy. Satins, same thing. I do evaluate palettes on versatility, and that would be the only thing I could complain about for this one, is that there's some shades that are close. But the quality blows me away that I have a hard time even remembering that half the time, because this particular corner can translate a little bit similar, and same with this particular corner. So missed opportunity from YSL to make that a little bit different, but the formula, wow. Like, I am so impressed. If they come out with another palette, I'll be super excited to try it out, because I did not think this was gonna happen. I was like, I don't know, but YSL as a beauty brand is a little bit more established. The Gucci one is newer. I know they had something before and then they relaunched Gucci again. YSL to me is a bit more established, a little bit longer in the game, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a lovely one. I'm obsessed with it. Miss Huda Beauty. Okay, Miss Huda. She makes amazing eyeshadow palettes, but in my personal experience, they vary in quality. The quads, or not the quads, I shouldn't call them the quads. They have 9 pans in them, so they're not quads, but they have like the smaller square packaging. 50-50 on those. Sometimes they can be fantastic, and sometimes they can be like, what on earth did I just pick up? But these palettes from her tend to be a bit more consistent, and this formula, this color story blew me away into space. This is the Rose Quartz Huda Beauty palette for this year. Oh, and she's gorgeous. She is so, so pretty. I love, love the packaging. Now, it's gorgeous with that quartz, but I'm also like one that loves those kind of textures. And the textures have translated into the palette. So, so pretty. A lot of people were really curious about this shade that's really in the center of this palette, saying that it kind of looked like a bacterial dish, like a lab dish from Biology Lab. I am guilty of saying said comment as well. Seeing the promotional pictures of being like, what on earth is that, right? And then I realized it looked more like Nerds candy and not bacteria. Thank goodness. So now I can look at it with a much better feeling in my stomach compared to bacteria in a dish. I love how she's continued the quartz look into the pigments. I think that's fantastic. I think it's brilliant. I think it's innovative. I love the colors, more on the cool tone side of things. I just think this is very, very stunning. I really, really do. Blew me away. Creamy, interesting textures from metallics to shimmers to mattes. So, so pretty. I can't with this one. This is Rose Quartz by Huda Beauty. I want to talk about what is on my eyes today. Now, we are in the top 3 palettes from the holiday that I have tested. So going from all of the palettes I have tested, I've tried all of the holiday palettes this year, and it's been so much fun, but we're now in the top 3. Best of the best here, guys. the best. Like, I can't even complain about these ones. There's nothing to complain about. They're just so great. On my eyes today is Pat McGrath's Celestial Odyssey. This is a limited edition palette. It's so beautiful. I mean, the packaging is really interesting and innovative, but it is her holiday packaging. She does have these mothership palettes that I love. They're the 10-pan black lacquer packaging, super gorgeous luxury packaging. This is one that serves its purpose. I wouldn't say it's the most luxury packaging she's ever done, but it's still practical and it's still realistic because she offers so many shades in here that I don't mind that she has skimped. How am I going to hold this, guys? Okay. Every time I hold this palette up, I worry that I'm going to hurt it somehow. This is a palette, though, that because there's so many shades in here, she had to make a bigger palette. If she did the black lacquer packaging, it would have robbed us blind with the price point, I'm sure. So I don't mind that she made this the palette packaging that she did. In order to host this many shades, I don't care. It's awesome. I do love this. Like, this nice plastic base makes it a little bit more luxurious, too. Now, I have used an array of pinks and silver in this one. I have the silver underneath. I have silver in the middle. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous palette for if you want to keep it like pink and easy to use, basic, if you will, browns, golds, but then there's also the blues. Really beautiful blue here, a green, a navy, like, love, guys. This is fantastic. This is a great one, but shimmer heavy. If you are not a shimmer gal, don't even think about it, okay? Because this is shimmer. Tons of it. If you love shimmer like me, you'll be obsessed. This is a beautiful one. Some fallout on the face, nothing like Anastasia, nothing crazy. I personally do my eyes first still. Because of that reason, I just don't want to have to deal with the headache of shimmer all over my face. No duds in here. Lovely. Good job, Pat. Amazing. Now, I included this next one because this one launched like just before holiday, so I would conclude it with holiday. It is Natasha Denona's midi palette for this season. I had to talk about it again. This is Retro from Natasha Denona. Now, guys, it's romantic vibes to the nines. It is so pretty. So, so pretty. This is like the romantic palette I have always wanted. This is bridal makeup. This is date night makeup. This is those of us that love rosy, plum, purple tones. This is stunning. We have metallics, shimmers, mattes, creamy, easy to work with, complementary, consistent. Fallout is minimal. Her formulations are great. I feel like she controls that fallout really, really well. So it's very impressive. And this is one that's also complementary to Natasha Denona's Glam. So if you got Glam or if you got the Midi Glam palette, it's a palette that you can pair so easily with that one and just amplify and crisscross those looks because they're complementary and gorgeous. Cannot sing the praises of this palette enough. It is so, so pretty. I really, really love how you can create those gorgeous romantic looks super easily, and she makes the user friendliness of this palette like 10 out of 10. You cannot mess this up. It'll look so, so pretty. We are on to the last palette. If I could recommend one palette this holiday. If you had, listen, Jenna, I have one palette to buy, that's it. I know you tested 27, but I only want one. Which one would you recommend? Utopian Dream by Pat McGrath. This was not labeled as a holiday palette. She has her holiday collection in Celestial Odyssey and the 2 quads. But this one, I would argue, is just as glamorous for the holiday and absolutely stunning. This is a beautiful, beautiful pink color story with those pops of duochrome purpley blue. Gorgeous. The Blitz Astrals in here, gorgeous. Creamiest mattes she can offer. Best formulations are in these 10-pan mothership palettes, and wait for one of her sales because she always marks these down. Upwards of 30-35%. I've worked with this multiple times and always been so impressed. This is quickly becoming one of my top mothership palettes of all time. Utopian Dream by Pat McGrath. The shimmers, the mattes, the shades are to die for. What was your favorite palette in this countdown? Do let me know down below all of your thoughts. I had so much fun testing all of these palettes, and I really hope this was helpful for you when it comes to purchasing or making decisions on which palette is best for this holiday season. Don't forget to subscribe for more high-end and luxury makeup reviews, and until my next one, take care, guys, and stay safe. Bye, guys.